everyone. This is Rafael speaking.
What's up, everyone?
I'm good.
Andrew, how are you?
Good, thanks. Let's see. Go ahead and pull everything up.
The passcode on the meeting invite appears to be incorrect. So I tried dialing in from portal and I entered the passcode. It didn't let me. Then I clicked on the link and then it logged me in. So maybe whoever is hosting the call, that's something for them to consider.
Okay, let's see. I'll message. I'll leave a note for Gail to look into it.
Good, thank you.
Let me go ahead and share my screen. So we got a couple, I think we can go ahead and get started. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, at least, yeah, 5. So, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so for today, we have actually a couple of proposals that we want to go through. Phil, do you want to get us started with these two TAC related proposals?
Yeah, Hunter, I attended the TAC meeting last Thursday, and these two nominations were taken up by them during that meeting, and Gail asked me to bring them forward to the TSC. So I'm playing a bit of messenger on Gail's behalf due to her PTO this week. The first proposal is to add an additional TAC member, Jen Rexford, who's the chair of the computer science department at Princeton, has really impeccable credentials, spent about 10 years at Bell Labs doing research on various communication related projects, early days of wireless communication, wireless data services, and things as I understand it. Bruce Davies was the motivating force apparently behind bringing her into the TAC, thought that her background and credentials would be very helpful to the project, and apparently she is very, very active in various projects that are related to Magma. And unfortunately, I don't have a great deal of detail behind that because, like I said, I'm just playing messenger, and I had only this morning to kind of research the background on it. But the TAC was very enthusiastic, and the four existing TAC members voted unanimously to bring this forward. And then I'll go ahead and just put the other one on the table as well. They also voted during that meeting to nominate Amar as their chair to formalize the de facto state of having him continue as chair based on the few days when he was the only member of the TAC where he started taking on the organizing role. And all of the members of the TAC were in favor of that, including Brian. offered very strong support for that. So with that, tee up the 2 nominations, and I could do my best to answer any further questions, but I think really the rest is for you.
Cool. Yeah. So at this point, does anyone have any questions or input, whether it's for Phil specifically or just generally for these 2 nominations or for the process as a whole?
Just in case there's any doubt, this is Shouty. Just wanted to say Jen Rexford is fantastic. Some of the work that the research that immediately inspired Magma actually came out of her group. So I'm personally really excited to see her joining the TAC, or hopefully that you'll vote for her to join the TAC.
Cool. Good input.
All right, cool. Well, let's go ahead and take a vote then. So first for the Jen Rexford nomination, all in favor say aye.
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 All right. And all opposed? All right, so that passes. And next for Amar as TAC chair, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And all opposed? All right, that passes.
Mary, I think you are on mute.
Didn't hear anything from Marianne either, but that
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
now we can.
Now
Yeah.
it's okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have been saying maybe I didn't unmute myself.
Yep, abstentions is fine as well, but okay, cool. So yep, both passed unanimously then. So that's good. Phil, do we have any follow-ups from there? Otherwise, I can just go and after the meeting, I can mark the proposals as passed, as accepted, and then you and or Gail can handle it from there.
No, I don't think there's any other follow-up beyond that. I'll get the feedback back to the TAC, and I think we're good to go.
Cool. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Shadi, do you want to take the next one away?
Sure. So this is the proposal about the hardware reference design process. Basically, no major structural changes since we discussed this last week, but the 2 follow-ups that we had were basically figuring out who an initial set of shepherds or reviewers could be, as well as a deprecation process. So basically what I added to the proposal on the deprecation process, and this is listed in the comment below, is essentially let's have put the onus on contributors of reference designs to keep their performance stats up to date with the latest Magma releases, with the idea being that it'll actually be really useful to understand if there's features that break reference designs or whatever. And that'll also kind of give a way to auto-deprecate abandoned designs. If no one's actually testing the latest releases of Magma on them, then it's safe to assume they're no longer up to date. So that's probably the main thing. And as far as the code reviewers or code owners, rather, shepherds, however we want to call them, suggesting 4 folks, all of whom I've talked to and are okay having their names out here. So mostly for performance evaluation and kind of interpreting the kind of performance testing and characterization from contributors, suggesting Tariq and Sudi from FBC to provide expertise on the hardware engineering side, recommending Vivek, also from FBC, who's been leading the design of the Facebook gateway appliance. And then to provide some expertise from the deployment side, Alex B from FreedomFi. I should have written the full last name, but he was the person who essentially picked out the FreedomFi can develop the requirements for the current FreedomFi gateway and has some good understanding of the space informed by their deployment experience as well. So I'll pause there. If there's any questions or comments, happy to answer.
Yeah, so as far as I'm concerned, I feel like this yeah, definitely hit on both of the points that we brought up. I feel like, yeah, both seem like you know, strongly tick the boxes. So yeah, and it seems like a good list of people as well, for sure. One question I had that I don't think is like existential to the proposal, but is there any thought on like what it means to profile Magma appliances like this outside of like an FBC lab environment, or is it just sort of up to the individual and then the code owners will handle interpreting the results and blessing them or not?
It's exactly that,
Okay.
basically, because I think I thought about specifying a more I don't know, like a set of test cases or something, but there's absolutely a world where we have people who are deploying, designing hardware for maybe deploying Orchestrator on-prem or for a federation gateway or something. So I think it's worth letting the code owners just kind of evaluate the quality of the evaluation plan. And maybe the evaluation plan is we shipped it to Facebook, Facebook ran it through the Spirent testbed and published some results. I mean, maybe that's what people wind up doing de facto, but I'm not sure it's important to pre-specify that.
Yep, I agree. I think that makes sense. You know, whether we end up doing that or not, I think is beside the point. I think for now, yeah, it makes sense to not prematurely optimize in this area. So cool. Yeah, any other thoughts or feedback on the updates to this proposal? All right, let's go ahead and take a vote then. So for the Access Gateway reference design process proposal, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, cool, so that passes. For next steps, Shadi, did you have anything particular in mind? What I was thinking is just like convert this into documentation somewhere on the Docusaurus, somewhere appropriate on the Docusaurus, just for an initial, like, okay, we can point interested partners to this documentation of like, here's the process that you would want to go through and here's the points of contact. And maybe even like I don't know if a Slack channel is too early, but just so that there is a space for talking about this type of stuff.
Sure. Yeah, no, we can do that. I mean, one thing I would also like to do is create like a issue template as well.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
That is easy for folks to fill out. And I can coordinate with whoever has permissions to do that offline.
Okay.
The other question, I'm not sure if this is a TSC question or maybe Phil knows, but I don't know if this is the kind of thing we need to take to the TAC too. Amar once suggests that we might need to, but I frankly don't understand the governance structure well enough to know what's necessary.
I would not consider this a TAC issue. It's
okay.
I mean, the cool. TAC is looking at strategic issues and directional proposals for the project, not the details of how we manage, you know, day-to-day process things like this.
Yeah, cool. Fine. Less approvals are fine by me.
All right, awesome. So yep, Shadi will take the next steps for given that the proposal is passed. If you want to, you can also message me, Shadi, with respect to like getting the issue templates updated and stuff like that.
Thanks all.
Cool. Arun, do you want to take this next one?
Yes. Let me see. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So this is a proposal for the containerization and container orchestration effort for the AGWs. So the problem statement identifies two key areas. One is how we can run AGWs in a standardized edge site, and then what counts for like a standardized operating environment, and how we could coexist alongside other 5G applications specifically. And the second part of the problem statement is, Orchestrator already has a much more cloud native format in that it's all containerized, it's managed through our Kubernetes, components are packaged via Helm charts. Can we bring the same kind of heuristics to the AGW as well? That way, there is a singular model where we build artifacts, where we deliver artifacts, where we update artifacts. So those are the two components of the problem statement tried to address. And then the proposal sort of describes how we will go about doing this, specifically what we will do on the containerization front, because we want to roll this across multiple releases due to other priorities. Our first phase would be to take the AGW as is, convert the systemd services into containers, and that marks the quote-unquote containerization effort. The next step, as the proposal highlights, is disaggregation, where we don't necessarily need to have all the services that make up an AGW pooled in together to form a singular instance. There are different relationships that I have, there are different runtime or build time requirements that I have. So we should be able to disaggregate them, staying true to what cloud native design is. The third step is scaling. So once you have disaggregated the services based on workload, how individual services can scale up and down. So that's what the containerization effort talks about. The next step is the cloud control plane for how these elements would be managed. So there are, if you can think of three key use cases here. One is classic Magma, which is Orchestrator runs in the cloud, components run at the edge. The second is on-prem Magma, where everything runs on-prem. There is a Kubernetes cluster that deploys the Orchestrator, and then there is gateways as well. And the third scenario is where cloud provider-based infrastructure is used at the edge, like GCP and Anthos or AWS and all the Snow and our port devices. In one particular scenario, classic Magma scenario, there is a chance that we might not have a Kubernetes control element that the gateways can persistently access. So we are proposing a localized Kubernetes control plane that could be as small as the host itself or a cluster to manage all the sites in the host. So that's what the proposal outlines. That's the quick summary on what this is. I'd be happy to take any questions. Okay, then I'll pass it back to you, Hunter.
Cool. Yeah. So my thoughts on this is kind of like, what direction are we trying to take the gateway, like the gateways and sort of the edge components of Magma. And I think generally there's pretty good consensus that this is the way to do it. And the hesitations are more around like, okay, what do we need to consider as we move toward this model, and what partners and key players doing to make sure we can keep on board as we transition this model. So to me, the TSC relevant component of this proposal is, do we want to align the project toward this end, because it will take like non-trivial effort and a decent amount of time to move through the phases that Arun identified, and to coordinate various parts of the ecosystem across the different deployment locations and styles to use this unified pattern. So I think to me, the TSC's involvement here is saying like, this is what we want to align on across the project as a conceptual goal. and from there, the individual players, Arun in particular, can drive actually making progress toward that goal. So as far as that, then, like the conceptual goal, does anyone have any input, thoughts, or questions? Yeah.
I would just toss in that there's other advantages in addition to the ones that Arun is enumerating and focusing on, and he's aware of these as well. But just to toss them out there for I don't know, posterity. One is like testability, right? So many of us are interested in this from a testability support perspective, being able to easily spin up subcomponent system and run integration tests and whatnot would be very appealing, with substantially reduced resources, perhaps relative to what we have to do today in Vagrant VMs and whatnot. And then I think another benefit is environment reproduction reduction. Like, today, to get a new library or whatever available to us in our C++ or C, like there's, increasing number of environments we have to go touch to get these libraries working everywhere. And so the more we can kind of get everyone into a single strategy that seems to replicate, hopefully, across all of the needed use cases, and that may be a high goal, but reducing the number of configurations would be awesome. And I think this is, in theory, in that direction.
Yes.
Yeah, so the question that I have here is that why we are considering the low cost devices like Raspberry Pi in the cloud edge.
Not necessarily. I'm not saying that's the device we need to consider or that's the device we need to land on. I'm saying our control plane would be as light that if it's a truly remote site, you would still be able to run it on something as small as Raspberry Pi. So a comparable use case, and if Shadi's on the call, he could throw some light as well. The embedded Magma use case, where I think the current efforts are around running the x86 part of it on an Atom processor, which is much less beefier than the x86, the Xeons. So the text there sort of highlights our control plane that needs to run on the local host will be as small as possible that you could even run it on Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, so I think it would be nice to do that. I just not sure if, because we don't have data at this point. So that's the only concern that I have with this. But otherwise, I agree with the unified edge across all the platforms that we want to support.
Cool. Yeah, on that point in particular, excuse me. To me, again, this is sort of like a directional thing, and so whether it's like would actually be achievable to run it on like a Raspberry Pi in particular is, I don't think necessarily like the TSC needs to have input on that. It's more of like, okay, is this the direction that we want to take it, like that we want to make things as small and as simple as possible, as unified as possible, and potentially even get to the point where we're, if not exactly on a Raspberry Pi or exactly on something as resource limited, at least like toward that direction, that eventually, like with further proposals and additional understandings, like getting to the point of understanding whether that would be feasible or not, and if yes, going forward, and if not, then curtailing it then rather than now. But okay.
Sorry, Hunter, I'll just clarify. Yes, I mean, like the text says, I just use Raspberry Pi as an example, but where I'd want to focus is low-powered, low-cost devices, right? So when we talk about the edge, one of the clear distinctions between quote-unquote cloud or data center versus edge is the requirement to support low-powered, low-cost devices based on where it's going to land. So that's the objective.
Cool. All right. Well, if there's not any additional input or discussion, we can go ahead and vote on it. So, yep, the proposal for moving toward edge cloud gateway patterns. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? All right, passes.
Thank you.
Cool. So we got about 3-4 minutes left. Scott, did you have any thoughts on this topic? Otherwise, and if yes, we can go over it briefly. If no, we can just like table it for maybe instead of like pulling it forward, we can table it.
Yeah,
for,
I've been
like, future
staring at it.
discussion.
Do you know what this was?
So this was my attempt to like summarize the block that we had from like the scratch notes and everything else.
Okay.
Where
Okay.
specifically like right now we don't have any way to follow metrics based on how for example how Magma code owners do with relation to their review speed, you know, like how long it takes to
Okay.
open a PR versus get it reviewed. I don't know that this is necessarily high priority, because if there are complaints about the like review velocity, then maybe this is something that we would want to bring up as a way to quantify the issues experienced, and then potentially make incremental progress on that.
Right.
But I don't have any, I've heard much less, I would say, frustrations recently since we've switched to the team-based approach.
Yeah.
But I also might just not be listening effectively. So I guess what we can do is point to this as like, we can table it for now if people are comfortable with that. And then if it becomes a problem in the near future, we can come back to it.
I haven't heard, I think one other aspect of this was like the CI failure bot type of thing, which I think, you know, the next step on that might be to look at whether what you had turned up, did you end up using that? What's the bot name that you ended up using?
I used GitHub Actions and GitHub Scripts, I think it's called, to just manually write out.
Because the bot you were looking to use did have like a broad set of things, but
so yeah, Probot does seem generally useful, and it seems like there's some stuff that would be really nice. It just like, what I found is you want to be a little careful about, there are some Probot bots that are dead,
brainless,
and it's not clear that it's dead because it has
the arms are there, but there's no brain left.
Yeah, it has like 100 stars and stuff, and it seems really simple, but then you know, I spent like an hour or two trying to get it to work, and it was going crazy. So I looked at the issues, and it was like, you know, 5 people being like, yeah, this is dead.
Let's expunge this line item, and then when we get more feedback, if we get more feedback that there's issues, and frankly, what might be a higher topic is the, you know, ready to submit type of process thing, you know. But anyway, this is that class of things. So let's expunge it for now, and it pops up.
All right.
Reap it.
Well, then in our last minute, just to say, if anyone else, I think we're getting to the point now where we might have less of a full agenda on a weekly basis. So for like, if the general community is interested in bringing up topics, I think what we can do is, if we were to otherwise finish early, we can leave some time for community members to bring up issues or talking points, and then if we burn through that as well on any particular week, we can always end early. So yeah, I think this is a good place to make the cut. So thanks everyone, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Thank you, Hunter.
Bye.